I'm live. I'm reading The Awakening Letters, Varieties of Spiritual Experiences in the Life After Death. This is a book by Lady Cynthia Sandys and her friend Rosamond Lehman. They recount the afterlife experiences of their daughters, Sally and Tricia, who both died young and in tragic circumstances. Today is the 9th of May, it's a Saturday. At present I'm at the 5th part, where there are letters from Sir Alvary Gascoigne, also called Joe, who is Sandy's brother, Cynthia Sandy's brother. I am now, he has written several letters, and I'm starting the next one. Sea Animal Kingdom. Well, we all grow slowly, but you know, death does change us all very considerably. It's the complete freedom. No money, no worry over, no health problems, no possessions, because we possess all. Perhaps employment, or the lack of it, is the most severe test. I felt the loss of my job on earth very acutely and could never settle into anything else. Here I found the constant excitement and the newness and awareness of our abilities took my breath away, and constant short assignments kept me on my toes, but continuity does not appear to exist. It's a continual change. Perhaps Flo can tell you how she can keep the even tenor of her healing ray, but I think even that fluctuates. This is one of the new conditions of life. Those who come over after or during a long life or of routine first feel a great release and then a great blank. I was asked to go and help some of our own office staff. I'd known some of them, and they were full of the joys of living, but they all said, "What do we do? It's like a long holiday," but that's not enough. So I suggested travel, and why not visit the coasts and go underwater, like your sister-in-law, Dorothy. One man did this and came back full of excitement. He'd made contact with sharks and whales and found they were excellent company and not at all anti-man, as he expected, but equally full of curiosity about us and very anxious to explore our world. So he brought a few whales and dolphins into our upper ether and had quite a long chat with them while they wriggled about in our atmosphere, appearing to be equally comfortable among the etheric currents. They have very clear thought patterns, which I am learning to sense. Your Arthur is an expert in thought patterns, and he taught me how to sort them out. The whales were delighted to be welcomed by man and said they had been excluded from human contact for centuries and centuries, and now at last the time had come when they could enter the ether and merge their great powers with ours. This fascinated me. They were so big and so radiant. They have a different wavelength from ours and a tremendous power for both sending out and absorbing the rays. In the end, our development, either here or with you, depends entirely upon our power to give and take. Do you remember the old tag, "Are you radioactive?" Well, that is just the whales are. That is just what the whales are. I'd never gone very far under the sea, though I'd explored Corrycrekan, but I wasn't taking in all the complex elements at that time. Now I find this hierarchy of sea life has gone a long way beyond us in the thinking line. It's hard work doing a piece of plain thinking in our old physical atmosphere. The air does not receive and send on thought waves nearly as easily as the water. Marconi discovered this when he entered the water in his etheric state. He said, "Now I can listen backwards and forwards. I can hear the Sermon on the Mount, or its equivalent as expressed in the sea. And I can listen forward to the words of the great Christ, speaking to those advanced enough to understand. There is another overwhelming sense of the presence of Christ in the water. I am on the edge of discovering this faculty, and tomorrow I should like to tell you about my first big journey underwater. Plants, sailing, Iona, Dorothy, and her sea creatures. I long to try and give you a picture of life over here. Lorna accepts all I write, but she still can't think of me as really living. I want her to know that I'm around, that my days, and no nights, are divided into periods when I'm with her at HL or in the mind world of her making. I mean, her thinking. We all create a mind world to which we retreat and in which we have a real feeling of life. Lorna's is among animals. She gives and receives through the animal and the plant world. People drain her and she gains nothing from them, so we must help the animal plant channel to grow. All animals, birds and plants, have what I can only call looser auras. They are continually sympathetic. They give out all the time, and they hardly seem to need to take in at all. Now the human animal has got itself into a corner. He has forced his aura tightly into his body. So, generally speaking, he's not sympathetic to all and sundry. He gives when he wants to, and withdraws most of the time. Man was constructed to be the main giver in life. The day was meant for giving, and the night for drawing in the extended power of the Creator. Lorna is naturally a good sleeper, which, as you know, I never was. So urge her to think of me, or of animals or plants on going to sleep. This will bring refreshment and, I hope, healing to the body. I'm becoming a really prosy old ceremonizer. But I want you both to know how it works. I get drained too and have to go and cook up some more energy, and this I do either in the jag or in the bluebell. Dee and I make a great thing of the bluebell. Do you remember how hampered we used to be by time, weather and wind? Now it's all quite different. The weather and the breeze are for us to command, and the sailing is as simple as driving a jag. We explored the coast, the island, the caves, and the whirlpools as we never could before, and I've learned a whole lot about Iona and Holy Isle, and the waiting forces that are all here there. St. Columba was the interpreter. He brought them to the surface. You know, since we've been lucky to have been brought up at Craignish with all this flowing through our auras in childhood. I wasn't nearly so open to it as you were, but it was there, and now I can tap it all and join in with you and Mother and Douglas. Lorna sensed it too, but for so short a time. I wish you could take her to Iona, perhaps one day. All this lovely coast has an immense future. At the moment it is only glimpsed by those in the body, but teeming numbers of etherics go there all the time. Luckily, they are not like a package tour befouling the whole place, but they are only the ones who are awake to this particular power. Until quite lately, only the Christian initiates have been using it, but now I meet all kinds of Easterners merging their rays with the old Iona power. When I say old, that is only relative. The saints are as up to the minute as they can be. Such a delightful group. They are magnetic, and they hold their groups and teach quite uninterrupted by the physical life that worries on around. I have been able to pass from the seeing and hearing, the physical to the etheric, and they tell me there are many entirely different cycles of life going on all the time on other VIPs, quite unconscious and completely insulated from the rest. All this is quite new to me, and I find it enthralling. When I've had enough, or taken in all I can, we plunge into the sea and explore the caves and sea creatures, physical and etheric. And here I meet your sister-in-law Dorothy. She is one of the great sea initiates. She is a forward-looking woman. I've heard all about the etheric home for naughty girls at Guido. She seems to be growing on some of my lines. We had some good laughs together. She has a great intimacy with the whales and dolphins, or the porpoises of our waters. Dorothy talks gaily to them, in or out of the body. They seem to be completely ambiplane, if there is such a word, and Dorothy loves them all, and is content to spend very long periods among them. I can't do that. I want change. I want to move from one plane of thought to another, with all this multiplicity of life around me. I just can't wait to see more. This is perhaps the place to insert letters about and from Pat's aunt, Dorothy, who had lived a frustrated life on Earth. Finding she could produce a dream house, she used it for the reception of all kinds of people, some advanced and others less so, who found themselves suddenly on the next plane. Subsequently, she entered the sea and made contact with all sea creatures. Patricia. Dot's home is only partly illusion. She is very near the physical ether, which means it is attainable for people without much development, who came over with their earth desires unsatisfied, and in the ether of Dot's home are able to construct just those same satisfying conditions which she had lacked throughout her own earth life. So the Tart's home is wonderful. You walk from one illusion to another. Some saw themselves as running a casino, others a theatre or concert hall. To all of them, self-expression with the appearance of success was produced on the ether. This is, of course, illusion, because it is only the desire of the ego for success and fame. We all need some measure of satisfaction. So Dot's home for these super extroverts is very colourful, but not without value. For instance, I heard the rippling sound of a piano being beautifully played, and a wonderful voice launching itself into a riot of songs. Egotistic? Yes, of course, but a stepping stone to the music spheres. The line of demarcation between the purely egotistic and the desire to allow the universal music to flow through is very close indeed, and many cross the border under Dot's care. Dot came here to fulfill her earth's desires, and they have been long since completely quenched. But she continues to help all those who in like disposition came over with what she calls a hot fury under their skin. Dot is doing a wonderful job, and it is all her own. But having exhausted her egocentric desires, she has called on many of the family and all kinds of more advanced people to help. As I told you, she has now a sideline, an aqua home, for all kinds of fish life which have been slaughtered by man and allowed to suffer. The slaying is accepted, but the causation of suffering is not. So we have whales and cod and all kinds of fish resting in a calming atmosphere before reincarnating. Dot adores them. It's a thing with her. She wanders among the big whales, soothing them and crooning to them. She has awakened quite a new VIP in herself and in all of us who come to join her. You ask about Lady B, who floated off when the Tarts arrived. Well, she came back. She missed the home-like atmosphere and on returning found Dot at the bottom of her etheric bay, working on the whales. Lady B was horrified and terrified, and quite speechless. Dot, who had always seemed to her to be a perfectly normal person, was patting and crooning softly to a small gathering of surly-looking whales and sharks. To her great credit, Lady B stood her ground and waited. Someone reminded her that there was no physical danger, and after a few minutes the audience became less surly. Tail flailing ceased, and Dot continued with her rhythmic crooning, which seemed to pacify them, until these great hulking brutes began a queer hissing sound, which deepened in tone and became a sort of deep accompaniment to Dot's treble notes. It was fascinating to watch. Directly she had gained the stage of relaxation, she turned it into a ray note and left her new patients under its influence, while she turned to welcome Lady B. "My dear, how nice to see you," were her first words, and Lady B, not expecting such a welcome, suddenly thawed out, partly the result of her recent terror and partly through the delight of Dot's welcome. She suddenly asked Dot if she could use her in any way for her work. Dot was delighted and said, "What kind of work?" "Oh, anything. I'm so tired of doing nothing." So now she's one of the staff. Dot keeps the whole place going. Gardens, library, dining room, cocktail bar, etc. So there's plenty of work, repairing and rethinking all those sides of life. Lady B is now doing the gardens and the library, with frequent dives into the piscatorium, or whatever they call it. I often go for a laugh and a rest. It's all so gay and happy. Dot is preparing to go further and work for animals too, but that is being done by many people, while fish life has been rather overlooked. Dot says she works for the castaways, but you'd hardly agree if you could look in upon some of her very highly coloured ladies and their swains. The swain part is very typical. They are drawn here by the desire for sex, thinking that anyway they are not cut off from some of the joys of living as they'd known them. They find a willing tart and proceed as before, but they have no sex organs. So what? Something quite different. Through lying together, the auras become enmeshed. As you know, a man rotates one way and a woman the other, so once they are in contact with a defined thought link, they suddenly find a curious feeling of at-oneness coming over them. You and Pa have experienced this in mutual prayer, but of course over here it is far stronger. They feel drawn together as by a magnet. It exhilarates and unites, and they become lovers in a higher sense, which of course they don't understand, but are quite ready to enjoy. This continues until an urge grows in them to go further. They have mixed with the rest in the dining room and the cocktail bar, and they have all danced together. In this way they fulfill the lust instincts, and often leave in couples to explore, to travel, and sometimes to work for some bigger cause, allowing universal spirit to flow through them. My love, Tricia. This continues, but I'll stop this here for now. I hope you have a lovely Saturday. Bye bye.